hear that pretty often? These folks don't. 1/8 of the world's population does not have access to clean water. Most of these people are from developing worlds. This translates into 884 million people. That's the size of North and South America. And the human cost of this problem is significant. Since the beginning of this presentation, 6 people have already died from a water-related cause. Over the course of a year, 3.5 million people will die because of water-related causes, and that is more than the entire population of people living in Toronto. Can you imagine the entire city of Toronto vanishing every single year? This is a big problem.
The most prominent solution is to publicly regulate the distribution of water. So let's start from the beginning. If the source is controlled by the government, the water belongs to the people. Left in the hands of politicians, they determine all the rules about who gets water and how much, at what cost. Necessary investment in infrastructure and technology is also determined by policymakers. Adding to the load of government, they also manage the operations of water services. Where is the consumer's money going? Not only does the public pay for government for water services, sometimes additional taxes are required to fund these operations. In Kenya, for a Nairobi slum, the only way to get water is through a network of porters hauling it in canisters on their backs or by donkeys. More than half of the population of cities in the developing world get their water this way. In Bogota, they successfully distribute water by having the rich subsidize the poor. Similar practices are also seen in Indonesia.
Now on to the private side of the story. The government still regulates the water in almost every case of water privatization. Investment is where things change. Sometimes corporations take on investments and governments continue to operate utilities. Other times, countries enter a pure play. Corporations invest and operate. In most cases, corporations run the operations. But the revenue stream is slightly different. When water is funded by a corporation, that from external sources such as the government or the World Bank is readily available. When Buenos Aires privatized its water, prices were raised by 20%. Poorer families could no longer afford this vital resource. 95% of the city's sewage is dumped into the Rio del Plata River, causing environmental changes and damage that must be paid for with public funds. Amidst this, Aguas Argentinas and Suez are making record profits that are twice the international average. Prices skyrocketed after privatization of water in Singapore. However, people with access to water doubled. To protect consumers, government placed an unrealistic price cap, causing corporations to fail inevitably. Ghana also uses a private water system.
Like many things in the world, there is an ongoing debate. Should water be privatized in developing countries? Let's examine some of the pros and cons of this approach.
The public sees numerous problems with the privatization of water. The motive behind the corporation is to make money. Making money at the expense of public interest has resulted in numerous failures with the private system. People close to water sources have become the only people who can afford it. Meanwhile, everyone else pays 800% more. Access to water is scarce, drastically increasing deaths across the country. Does that seem effective to you? Private companies are forced to charge either 1/3 of household income or request substantial government subsidies to cover costs. So, who has the power? For example, companies such as Suez have $100 billion in revenue compared to a mere $15 billion GDP of countries such as Paraguay and Uganda. In negotiations, private corporations are approached by numerous governments, increasing the leverage they have in selecting business partners. Governments are sweating to find ways to attract these investors into their water industries.
So developing countries should avoid water privatization? Not necessarily. The corporation presents the following. The nature of capitalistic competition will drive corporations to act responsibly to their consumers. If not, consumers will rise against the corporation, compromising profits. Also, corporations have a much more attractive resume, extensive international experience, and a proven track record can achieve economies of scale and technologies that governments of developing countries can't implement. Comparatively, pursuing water privatization is the smarter option. But what about cost? A lot goes into a single glass of water. Money is invested into the operations facilities and the infrastructure to distribute water. Labor costs are also high, which in turn benefits the local workforce. These investments outweigh what the government is willing to put in their water services, so corporations offer a better glass of water. Well, I see now that partnerships do not have to be a power struggle. Reasonable regulations with specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals can complement corporations to offer fair consumer prices and ensure they make responsible decisions.
The future of water distribution cannot be managed exclusively by either the government or corporation. The two must work together to share expertise in water technology and the knowledge of local dynamics. These are crucial to the future delivery of this essential resource to populations across developing countries.